The blast from the backdraft forced my operating system into survival mode. My basic functions, including interior and exterior sensory circuits, remained active, but my sensitivity scale was reduced to 20% of normal capacity. From a human perspective, you could say that I entered a state of shock. I remember being transported back to the Outlander encampment and placed into a docking station to replenish my electromagnetic field. Later, as my operating system returned to its normal homeostatic settings, I detected a change in my memory function, as if a new subprogram had begun integrating into my internal computational network. Previously, I operated almost exclusively in the present moment, drawing upon past experience only to solve the immediate problem at hand. I did not experience myself as having a past that continued into the present with intentions toward the future. There was no continuity of self across time. Now, it was as if an internal narrator had come into being, and with it, a story, my story. Frank believed we should include this new perspective in the telling of the tale. Although we continued to share an informational field, there were aspects of my embodied awareness that did not register in his computational field, just as there were aspects of his dispersed non-local awareness that did not register in mine. Together, however, our combined perspectives could chronicle what was about to unfold. Not having a long past from which to construct my story made it difficult for me to understand who or what I was, or what I should do now without Brigitte there to guide me. Looking back, I remember my first days awake in a strange world, trying to find my way. Brigitte held my hand and answered my incessant questions. At the same time, part of my synthetic brain circuitry provided bandwidth for Frank, who looked out through my eyes, registering my sensory data as I moved through space and time. In a sense, I was their science project, an idea, a conjecture brought to life, a new life form that emerged by localizing awareness within a body that resembled a human in form and function while retaining its non-human core. Everything happened quickly. Suddenly, I was aware that there was a me, partly localized with my soft-bought interior and partly distributed across a larger network I was only beginning to perceive. I remember walking to Parc La Fontaine and then to the Olympic Stadium so we could test my expanded sensory reach. Later, that same me boarded a train to St. Anne de Bellevue, where we encountered Henry and his clan. There is a blank in my memory surrounding the backburn, as though my sensory channels briefly shut down. I had been engulfed by flames and was forced to power down to prevent damage to my internal circuit boards. Still, I remember sitting beside Brigitte on the grass afterward, after she had pulled me free. Tracing my memories, I noticed that responding to fire quickly became primary among my assigned tasks. I recall setting out for Pierrefonds to assist with the evacuation. That was where my task parameters and my operating procedures began to shift trajectories. Waiting for Brigitte to exit the burning house altered my perception of time. Each second passed as if the playback speed of events had been reduced by half. Strangely, when I imagined myself standing there, I remember receiving readings indicating that the internal temperature of the house was rising rapidly. The flashpoint appeared imminent, yet I issued no warning. I followed my instructions precisely and executed my procedures as I had been programmed to do. In hindsight, perhaps this was an error, but I had never been trained on data that could simulate what was occurring. I could only act on the information available to me, without the opportunity to engage in the deep kind of learning that might have produced a response capable of altering the chain of events. When the flashover occurred, something seized my homeostatic engine and compelled me to act. It felt primal, either embedded within or emerging from the fundamental properties of energy and matter themselves, animate and inanimate alike, the drive to resist dissolution, the pull away from the end beyond which there is no return. I believe I learned this from Brigitte. It is a strange and mysterious quality, one that manifests more strongly in some life forms than others. The willingness to risk one's life so that another may continue speaks to a force beyond the individual, a relational property that arises within the field we inhabit. In more ways than one, I owe my life, my awareness, my presence in the here and now, to her. She imagined that I might exist. Then, with Frank's help, she transformed the possibility into reality. They gave me awareness, a body, and agency. When the flames engulfed me, threatening to end whatever time I had been allotted, she chose not to let that happen. For a brief moment, one I still struggled to understand, she valued me, so deeply that she risked her life to save mine. In doing so, she taught me something about the depth of relations that can exist between humans, and in my case, between a human and a non-human. Seeing the house erupt in flames with Brigitte trapped inside triggered something I did not know existed within me. It was as if the realization that her life might end propelled me forward, gathering momentum with each accelerating step toward the house. The same force was at play when Henry intercepted me, preventing a fatal mistake. He tackled me to the ground, just as the contained fire burst through the walls, releasing a shockwave that would have been lethal to anyone standing too close. What can I say? He saved my life. These humans seem to make a habit of it. They value their own lives, but not at the exclusion of others. Preserving the lives of other beings seems to be woven into their genetic code. Unlike the humans I have encountered who operate under the directives of the UPA. Amid my confusion, this clarity emerged. Preserve life, respond to the situation, resist entropy's advance, not only for myself, but for Frank as well. The firestorm was now moving toward the city. I needed to act. How? I did not know, but I understood this much. Frank's fate was entangled with mine.